Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. As I'm sure you're aware, Bitcoin is down, currently just over 50%, just nearly 50% from its highs of last year. And as I'm sure you also know, Bitcoin is facing a lot of fear and pessimism right now. You can see this from the fear and greed index. I mean, just recently, the fear and greed index reached 16, and yesterday was at the 10 level. So a lot of fear and pessimism towards Bitcoin. But here's the thing, guys. In this video, I'm going to run an experiment, a kind of scientific experiment, and I'm going to ask the question, what does Bitcoin usually do? How does it react or behave whenever the sentiment is this low? So whenever the fear and the pessimism on Bitcoin is so low, what happens to Bitcoin going forward? In fact, I'm going to show you this chart you're seeing here. I'm going to explain to you what this is and what it means for Bitcoin going forward. And I'm going to explain to you what the data you're seeing here, what this data is telling us as well. All right, guys, join me. All right, guys, welcome back. So before we talk about this chart you're seeing here, and I'm going to run an experiment on Bitcoin, which should be quite interesting for you. And before we talk about this data over here, I want to just give you some context. As I was saying at the start of this video, again, the sentiment across the board on Bitcoin, almost everybody out there is very much negative, pessimistic, and fearful when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto. Again, as I explained to you at the start of this video, I took the screenshot today. Again, it's 16 on the extreme fear rating here for Bitcoin and crypto essentially here. And as you can see here, public opinion has really turned against Bitcoin here. As you can see, extreme fear across the board over the last several days and weeks and even last month. By the way, I've noticed that in the comment section of my own videos, generally the perspective is very much negative and pessimistic. Let's go back to this chart you're seeing here. Okay, guys, so here's what I want to do. My point in this video is this. Look, it's all very well saying, okay, yeah, everybody's pretty much pessimistic, fearful, and there's a lot of low optimism, but how do we measure this scientifically, okay? So how can we put this into context across the board for the last several years, the last 10 to 15 years? So what I want to do is I'm going to use the backtest engine provided by Jason Geppert of Sentiment Trader. And this is a fantastic engine here. I want to show it to you. So what I want to do is I want to backtest this sentiment going back for at least for the last 10, 15 years. And here's what I'm going to do, guys. As you can see here, I've chosen Bitcoin as the index and Bitcoin optics. By the way, as I'm sure you know, Bitcoin optics just means Bitcoin optimism, the index here. So Bitcoin optimism index. And over here, guys, I'm going to apply, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a 5-period moving average to the Bitcoin optics. Okay, I'm going to show you this in a few minutes. I'm going to apply to Bitcoin a 200 period moving average as well. And I want the 200 moving average here, as you can see, I want it to slope down. So you can see I've chosen downward sloping for the 200 moving average. Why? Because Bitcoin's 200 moving average here has been sloping down here for the last several weeks going towards this month. So I want to find similar conditions to what we're in right now for Bitcoin. Let's go back to our backtest engine. All right, guys, so I've applied all these things. Now, in case you're wondering, why am I doing all this? Here's why. Take a look at this particular optimism index on this chart you're seeing here. Let me zoom in. Let me go into year to date, okay? So you will see, by the way, this blue line you're seeing here, this is the optimism. So this blue line is the optimism index itself, all right? And you will see this green line. This green line is the 5-period moving average applied to Bitcoin's optimism index, the optics, okay? So in other words, I want to smooth out all this volatility, all this up and down in the blue line, in other words, the optimism index. And I want to just smooth it out into a 5-period moving average. By the way, notice something interesting. This green line, this 5-period moving average, just recently went below 20%. In other words, the 5-period moving average, the green line you're seeing here, of Bitcoin sentiment went into minus 20 territory here, minus 20% territory for the first time after a very long time, okay? By the way, one important thing, when this happened, when the moving average went below 20%, that was on the 11th of May, and on the 11th of May, that was this bar you're seeing here on Bitcoin. That's red, this particular red bar. Bitcoin was trading at approximately 28,400, okay, on that day. So guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm now going to the backtest engine. I'm going to apply those criteria that we've chosen here and run the backtest. Here we go. Let's do it. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, here are the results of the backtest engine. And as you can see here, those red dots on my chart, have a look at those red dots. Those are the signals. So those red dots you see on the chart there are every single time we had extreme fear and pessimism based on the rules and criteria we applied. So you can see the last time was back in 2020. Then there was back in, I believe it was 2018. Yeah. and a few other times before that as well. And again, we'll have a look at the data. We'll have this data in a few minutes. But before we go on to that, let me first of all just show you some examples of this. So let's zoom in here. You can see that, yeah, that was the most recent reading, you can see. And before that, there it is. That was back in 2020. Look at this. Back in 2020, you remember the major crash we had on Bitcoin after the stock market crash at the beginning of the pandemic and the COVID crisis. So there it is. There's a red dot, and that coincided with just near the bottom there on Bitcoin before a substantial rally took place. By the way, you're probably wondering, how come these were not signals? Because you can see that the green line was below 20% here as well. Yes, guys, but remember, we applied a very strict criteria here in this particular experiment. As I said a few moments ago, we applied a 200 moving average to Bitcoin, and we want that moving average to be sloping down. So therefore, the criteria I've chosen for these signals is much more stricter than normal. Let's go now to this data. Okay, I want to show you now what the data is telling us. Again, this is courtesy of Jason Gippert of Sentiment Trader. And again, I want to show you what the statistics is telling us about every time this criteria is met. Again, remember, the criteria is this. Bitcoin, after the 5-period moving average of extreme pessimism, is less than 20%. And very importantly, remember, and we want the 200 moving average to be sloping down. So what are the results? Here's what we get. First of all, these are the signal dates. So the last one was 11th of May, as I discussed before. That was the 13th of March, 2020. Then November of 2018, August of 2015, April of 2015, and back in 2014, December of 2014 as well. Okay, now here's what we get going forward, the results. As you can see here, I'm going to show you in a few minutes the average returns. So average returns, median returns, and the win rate, the positivity rate as well in a few moments. But as you can see here, let's just focus, first of all, on the short term for now. On a short-term basis for the next few weeks and months, yeah, as you can see here in this time window you're seeing here, yeah, I mean, it's not fantastic. As you can see here, there's a lot of volatility here. Some are positive, some are negative. In fact, the worst year for this was in 2018. I'm sure it's not surprising to you. 2018 was a major bear market for Bitcoin. Same goes for 2014. 2014, as you can see, also a bear market that year as well. So we have a lot of reds in those specific years. The other ones are generally positive. But the bottom line is this, that, again, it's not fantastic. The short term, the next few weeks and months. In fact, you can see the average returns. Let's have a look at this. The average returns and the median returns and the win rate over here. So you can see going for the next month, generally not brilliant. It's not fantastic. Some of them, the median returns are positive, but there was actually a negative average return within the first month. Again, that's mostly because of the bear markets we had in 2018 and 2014. Okay. Now here's what's interesting. What's interesting is if you focus what happens after 6 months to 1 year. So have a look at this. In the 6 month to 1 year period, results improve quite dramatically. There was only one negative. That was back in 2014. But across the board, even in 2018, we had positive results. That's after 6 months from the signal, by the way. Overall, we had a win rate. You can see here in the 6 month window, we had a win rate or a positivity rating of 80% with a median return of 61%. It's not bad. But here's where it gets interesting. In the 1 year window, so after 1 year, okay, as you can see here, in fact, across the board, every single one of these is positive. We get positive returns across every signal, okay? And again, you can see the median. The median was what? The median was 94.65% after 1 year, okay? Again, this is not short term. This is long term after 1 year, 12 months period. And as you can see here, the win rate, the positivity rating is 100%. Why 100%? Because again, as I mentioned before, every single one of these is in the black, it's positive, okay? So we have no reds. There are no reds here whatsoever, okay? Whereas there was one red here back in the 6 month period, which is why the win rate here is about 80%. By the way, it's worth mentioning that in the 3 month window, the median return is about 31.5% as well. Again, remember guys, these figures you're seeing here in the median box, in the median returns, these are not maximum, they're not minimum, they're median. So it's possible or even probable that Bitcoin may potentially outperform these median figures, okay? Or indeed underperform them even as well. But here's what I wanted to actually get across here. I think what this data is showing to us, and indeed what this chart over here is telling us here as well, is that we need to adopt a much more long-term perspective for Bitcoin. Because if you're focused only on the short term, well, the short term is not going to be fantastic probably, based on, again, based on the criteria that I chose in this video, and based on the pessimism, the extreme pessimism. We can see that in the first few weeks and months, again, the median is positive. You can see the median is positive, sure, but it's not fantastic, okay? It's not brilliant. And again, we can see that there were some major exceptions here in the bear markets of 14 and 2018. Quite a lot of reds, as you can see here. So there's a mixture, there's a mixed bag of positive and negative. What the data is telling us is that instead we should adopt a much more long-term perspective for Bitcoin, again, in the 6 month to 1 year period. Because remember, as I mentioned before, in the 1 year period, the win rate or the positivity rating goes to 100%, okay? And the median is almost 100%, 94.65 or 95% after 1 year. Now, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put in the price of Bitcoin on the date of the last signal, which I explained to you was on the 11th of May. At that point, Bitcoin was trading at 28,400, approximately there, okay, 20,400. I'll put it into the calculator. Plus, I'm going to apply the median after 1 year of 94.65%, okay? Let's put that also into the calculator. So plus 94.65%, that gives us 55,280 as our potential upside projection for Bitcoin. Again, based on the probabilities for 1 year from now. Again, guys, remember, this is a potential projection based on a median figure, not for the next few months, but likely by next year. In other words, May of 2023. Okay, now again, Bitcoin may potentially exceed this potential figure and projection. Let me also mention one more thing, guys, as I'm sure you already know this, that these are not certainties, these are only probabilities. As Jason Geppert himself says this, he says, I love this quote, he says, we can never traffic in absolutes or certainties, only probabilities. All right, guys, so please remember this, okay? This is only giving us a likelihood or a probability that Bitcoin may potentially repeat similar patterns based on statistics. But again, it's by no means certain. So we're not saying you should ignore risk and abandon all risk management. No, by all means, do manage the risk and do stay protected. All I'm saying is that, again, based on the probabilities, as Jason Geppert says here, that is something we may potentially see by next year. By the way, I also love this quote from Jason Geppert too. He says, if markets are efficient at one thing, it's making everyone look like fools at some point. I think he's right about that. I certainly have been made to look like a fool by Bitcoin and the major markets a few times in the past. So it happens to all of us. We're human. And guys, that means this. That means we have to be humble and, not try to take a very dogmatic approach when it comes to analysis. Again, try to look at the markets probabilistically, not dogmatically. All right, guys, before I finish the video, I just want to mention a few things. Firstly, if you like this video, you found it useful or enjoyable, please give it a like. And also, please subscribe for future videos. And also, guys, in the comment section, please tell me how you feel about Bitcoin. Do you feel optimistic or pessimistic on Bitcoin and crypto going forward for the next 6 months to 12 months? And also, guys, please make sure you watch the members video as well, because in the members video, we go into more detail about Bitcoin, the stock markets, and also gold as well. And if you're not a member, you can join on that link you see right there. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now.